Hello guys, and welcome to this second video lesson that it's going to be quite short, just to close the previous part related to narration. Basically here I am going to explain something about the narrators. It's just a very quick reminder because you're already supposed to know about this. Um, and I will explain the first part of the assignment for this week. Okay, we're going to have only one assignment, but it will have two parts. I will explain. Sorry, one part over here and one part in another video. So if you can go to the slide number 94, you will see over here the types of narrator. The people who took composition with me, I guess that you should be pretty familiar with this. We have the first person narrator, that is of course corresponding to the first person, I. And remember that this first person includes the first person of singular, that is I again, or the first person of plural, that it's we, right? Same exercise that I usually do when I explain this topic, and it's for example, I can say something like, this morning I had toast and coffee and orange juice for breakfast. Yes, so I use it in that way, and use the subject or the pronoun I, right? If I want to do it in plural, well, same thing. This morning we had toast and orange juice and coffee for breakfast, right? Pretty simple, right? So every story that has a narrator, that is I, that is we, that is my friend and I, all these different variations of the subjects, it's going to be first person, okay? Then let's jump into the third person. We will return in a moment. This third person is of course he, she, it. If we're talking about the singular, or they if we're talking about the plural, right? So I can say something like, Diego had toast and coffee and orange juice for breakfast this morning, or they had, etc. Right? I think that's pretty simple. Again, this is just a reminder. We are already supposed to know about this. I am doing it just in case, but that's it. Okay. Now let's go back. Let's jump into the number 2. So what is the second person? Right? Second person has to do with, well, the second person of the pronouns, that is you. Okay, this you can be as well singular or plural. The thing is that this is not really common. It doesn't happen a lot, like to use second person for narrator, because either it is the author or the narrator talking to the reader, for example. Yes, that's a possibility. You are reading about this book, etc., right? Or maybe one particular character telling certain things about another, because such other character forgot, lost his memory, or maybe was unconscious, or maybe was under the effect of some drug or alcohol or something similar, anything that made him forget certain things, no? So something like, I really don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning. Yeah, so there comes the second narrator, or sorry, the second person narrator. You had toast and orange juice and coffee this morning, Diego, right? So it's not very common. It normally appears in just segments or fragments of the story, but it's very unlikely that you are going to find a whole tale, let alone novel, that can sustain this sort of narrator. There are some, yes, they definitely exist, but they are mostly experimental, and they have, let's say, very unorthodox characteristics, right? Okay, very well. Now let's go with the number 4, the omniscient narrator, right? And this narrator is often confused with the third person, right? And this is because, let's say that we can explain it by using a chiasmus, right? Is this one that every omniscient narrator is a third person narrator, but not every third person narrator is omniscient. Hopefully you get it, right? What does it mean? Well, first of all, we have the word omniscient, yes? This adjective that means to be everywhere at the same time, to know everything, to have a general perspective, or we can say panoptic perspective of everything that happens in a story, right? Being omniscient is a characteristic that is often attributed to God or any divinity, because he or she or they are supposed to be everywhere at the same time and know everything you do, everything you think, know what happened in the past, present, and future, right? So normally, this omniscient narrator is a narrator that knows every single detail of the story before it happens, and that know different things, or let's say secrets, if you want to call it, or revelations, that the even the same characters are not aware of. Yes? Now, the omniscient narrator is usually not a character in the story. It is outside of the story. It doesn't participate on the story. It is just like this mysterious voice that somehow narrates the events on the story, right? So an example of it would be something like Diego had breakfast this morning, and he had toast and orange juice and coffee. Little did he know that when he went outside his house, when he left his house, he was going to be robbed, or hit by a car or something like that. See, has information that even the same character doesn't have. Now let's go back to the chiasmus. Remember, every omniscient narrator is third person. Yes, so remember what I say. Diego did this and that. He didn't know, so it is third person, right? So every omniscient narrator is third person, but not every third person narrator is omniscient, right? Let's say that we have the possibility of a narrator that is third person, but he doesn't have privileged information. It's just another character in the story, and that's it. Yes? So hopefully you get it. If you don't, please let me know, and we can maybe clarify certain things, or you can ask any of the kids who took composition with me. Hopefully they will be able to help you. Well, last time that asked a question about narrators, I realized that most, if not all, of the people who took composition with me answered correctly. So maybe they could help you as well. Well, in the number 5 we have the dialogical narrator. That is pretty simple. It's simply a conversation between characters that let us know the story, right? So rather than using a particular pronoun, we have conversations or dialogues, and that is why it's called dialogical, between the characters that are replications of such conversations. So normally we have a hyphen, maybe quotes, and a phrase, and then the reply with the other person. And by means of this exchange of information, we get to know what is happening, right? So it's something like, hey sweetie, what do you want for breakfast? Well, I don't know, maybe I would like coffee. What about some juice and toast to complement? Great. Conversation between two people, right? And they never use he or she, or these different things, but it is by means of this conversation that we get to know or we get to advance in the story. For example, the narrators in comic books are most of the times dialogical, because it is by means of these conversations in the balloons that we get to know the stories. Finally, we have the mix that is pretty simple. It's basically the combination of two or more of the former narrators, right? So in the same story, in the same book, we can have one chapter, or even in the same paragraph, we can have one part that is first person and the other third person, and sometimes omniscient and sometimes dialogical, and that's it. It's pretty common. It's one of the, let's say, most common types of narrators in novels, specifically because we have lots of different spaces in order to take advantage of them. Okay, very well, guys. So first part of the assignment. Okay, you go to the slide number 95, right? And basically, what you're going to do is to write at least a narrative paragraph, at least one. If you want to write a little bit more, that's up to you, but that is going to be the minimum unit that I will receive. Okay, so what should be this story about? Because if it's narrative, it's going to be a story, right? So you can select any of these 5. Please, just you're going to write on top of the paper after your names, like the one that you selected. Okay. So it can be either a dream. Forget about the first part of interior monologue. That was for something different, but we're going to do it in different ways later on. So you can either describe a dream. So it's only 4. Sorry. You can describe a dream. In this case, just mention the story of dream. Use the vocabulary that you want. Most of the times dreams are, nonsensical, so it doesn't necessarily require to have a logical series of facts. Maybe just that. Okay, so you can write a dream, or you can write the narration in let's say the format of an instruction manual. Yes. Like, imagine that you're going to put together a sofa or a shelf or a desk or something like that. Normally they have some instructions. Well, we're going to do it in this way, in this format, but with something that has nothing to do with instruction manual, something that normally you wouldn't require, no? So it may be something like how to forget an ex-lover. Yes, you want to get rid of one person from your heart and mind, and you're going to write an instruction manual in a narrative way. Yes, again, the tenses are up to you. Normally, they are in present, the manuals, right? But I leave it for your creativity. Or how to kill a mosquito, for example. Well, like, why writing a manual for that, right? But if you have to do it, if you decide to do it in this way, it may be fun, like to try to look for ways, systematize it, doing the chronology, etc. Okay, that's a second option. The number 3 will be an exotic point of view. Okay, so you're going to describe, in this case, narrate an event, right? Because remember that they have to focus on narration. This event can be something, let's say, day to day, like very, very common, or it may be something more dramatic, such as, for example, these ones: a suicide, a wedding, a murder, a sexual exchange. But the important here is going to be the point of view. Yes, you are going to imagine that you are an object. Yes, and you are going to contemplate any of those things. Yes, so let's say that for the suicide you are the rope, or for the wedding you are a bench or the ring or something like that. For the murder, you may be the axe or the knife, or simply I don't know, something that was lying by, like a chair. For a sexual act, you may be the bed, the chair, it may be a painting that observed. Okay, I'm giving you this like 4 examples. Think about any other thing that you can imagine, such as a soccer match, somebody falling, a class, whatever. But remember that you're going to narrate this event since the point of view of an object. So whatever you are, like put in the place of that object and imagine that you have conscious and make the narration of it. Okay. And finally, the number 4 will be the what if, imaginary impossible situations, something that we are not going to be able to do, or that right now at least we're not able to do. So what if we had wings? Yes. What if I could talk to animals? What if walls spoke? Right? So you're going to imagine those situations and you're going to create a narration. I am giving you just a general framework. You have the complete liberty to write whatever you want as long as it is narrative. Okay, those are like basically the frameworks. If you want to stretch the situation a little bit more, you can do it, no problem. No need to ask me for it. Still, if you want to ask me, that's fine. But that will be it. Okay, so remember to put like the label, or if it's the dream or the instruction manual or whatever. Okay, remember, 1 paragraph minimum. Once you have that paragraph, what are you going to do? Well, very simple. You are going to write the narrative superstructure for that story. Okay? That's it. Basically, you're going to tell me what is its summary or prologue, and if it doesn't have, so you say no summary or not prologue. The initial situation, what is it? The complication, the action, the resolution, evaluation, or moral. Right? Remember that some of them may be there, and some others may not. So make sure to, in the case that they are not there, it's not mandatory like to create one or identify one. No. Just do it in that way. And just let's say that is the assignment in terms of the narrative superstructure. You can, if you want, for example, write under the same format. Yes, like do the diagram and write really short sentences over there, so we can identify the parts. Or if you prefer, you can just simply in your document write the subtitle, initial situation, colon, and write a couple of sentences over there. Okay, so please, you're going to do that. Create the narrative superstructure and identify the type of narrator. Okay, so you say this type of narrator is first, second, third, fourth doesn't exist, well, third, omniscient, and all these different things. Okay, basically it's those, let's say, 3 things: writing the narrative paragraph, identifying the narrative superstructure, and identifying the type of narrator. You can mention it and probably give a couple of examples so I can verify that it is in this way that you propose. Okay, well, thank you very much. That is the end of this second video.